Hey there, this is In the Spotlight with Kelly Sinkowski, and today we're going to dive into one of the strangest but most fascinating research studies I've seen in quite some time. The question is, which of the US states would be most likely to survive a zombie apocalypse? And somehow, guys, believe it or not, Virginia rated second in the country. This study comes from Canada Sports Betting, which is part of Better Collective. Better Collective is a global digital sports media company that focuses on sports coverage, betting insights, and fan communities. And they work in both North America and Europe. Lots of sports fans out there. And guys, obviously, I have questions, especially about how a sports media company is figuring out zombie survival odds. And joining me today is Kathy Moore with the Better Collective team. Kathy, thank you so much for talking to me today.
No, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So, we just have to figure out, first of all, whose idea was it to calculate zombie apocalypse survival odds?
Well, we have a pretty diverse audience and fan base. Um, and we do a lot of odds about sports and betting, who's most likely to win the big game, a lot of World Cup odds. But some of our audience, especially as like the world of betting has expanded, like with Kalshi and Polymarket, are interested in more atypical markets. So we thought it would be fun to do some zombie apocalypse odds in honor of Zombie Awareness Month. And it was very fun.
That's fun. I didn't even know Zombie Awareness Month was a thing, but I'm glad we're celebrating it. Um, so when they did this study, what are some of the factors that they were trying to figure out or
Yeah,
calculate?
we looked at a lot of factors, including like population, obviously more dense, more zombies, firearms, healthcare infrastructure, military and veteran presence, and other key factors that might give you a little bit of an edge should the zombie apocalypse happen.
That makes sense. So obviously the number one state in the study was Wyoming. Wait, is that correct? Was it Wyoming?
I believe it was Wyoming.
Yeah, so was.
Yeah, Wyoming. Mhm.
What do you think put them over the edge compared to the other states?
Well, a lot of the top 10, like Wyoming, are fairly like spread out, which gave them a bit of an advantage. It's also typically like you look at like Wyoming, Alaska, the Dakotas, you have fairly high gun ownership and veteran presence. I think what makes Virginia interesting is that they rank so highly because they're kind of the outlier when you look at the other states. Um, and that really comes down to the infrastructure of Virginia gave them an edge in their rankings, even though they are fairly populated. And so that's kind of a little interesting Virginia fact.
That makes sense. I'm pulling up the website so I can share my screen. This is the Zombie Apocalypse Survival Index 2026. And we have Wyoming first because they have the highest on firearms and low vulnerability. And then Virginia is second, mainly because we have a massive military presence here, 23 bases, and the highest veteran population. And it seems logical to assume that we probably have a lot of citizens that have handguns or weapons in this state. And it's just fascinating to me. So Wyoming was the top with 7%, and Virginia's behind them with 6.82%. And you scroll all the way down through this list, and they're at the bottom. And I don't know if this is a shock or not, but New York has a 3% survival rate. Do you think it's fair to say that's probably because there's such a massive city and such an urban population?
Highly urban, comparatively low. I mean, obviously, as you look at the state, like in more rural areas, low gun ownership. I mean, higher gun ownership, but comparatively nationally fairly low. Um, and as if you've seen any disaster movie, New York City does not seem like a fun place to be in should the zombie apocalypse break out.
That's true. So I think we have to consider this is such a fun topic, but the method that you guys use to research this information, this is legitimate statistics, is that right?
Yes, we approached it like a very serious scientific thing. You currently cannot bet on the zombie apocalypse, although again, with how like prediction markets are going, maybe you can soon. But we took
Right.
we it's fun, but we made it into a science.
That's so fun. Is there anything in the research that you think would have overlapped with a real world emergency preparation scenario?
Yeah, a lot of this almost reminds me of some of like the like pandemic health related studies of like disease and
Hmm.
like because we are looking at a lot of like the same resource element as well as like kind of the risk factor, which is tends to be dense population. So maybe this is also a good place to maybe this would correlate. I haven't run the numbers on this on your odds of catching the flu.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And you're right, with COVID, we saw the same sort of thing. Rural areas, less outbreaks, the high density metropolis, you know, city, essentially. That's a really good correlation. And it makes sense because we don't know how the zombie apocalypse starts.
Yeah, who knows? It could be who knows how it's going to be contaminated.
That's so cool. So let me ask you a couple of fun questions. If the apocalypse hits, what survival snack are you packing?
That's a very good question. I think my favorite zombie movie had a lot of Twinkies involved because apparently they last forever. So I guess maybe that's what I'll pack, just in hopes of a long endurance. What about you?
Is that the one they're in an amusement park?
Yes, yeah. The name is like
I can't
escaping
remember
me.
the name of it, but I know what you're talking about.
We did not include
Let's
any Twinkie
see.
related metrics in our
What
study, unfortunately.
uh, what zombie movie would probably or show do you think has the most realistic, like what you would see happening if the apocalypse hits?
Ooh, that's a great question. Maybe The Walking Dead. It seemed
Why
very,
that one feels very realistic approach.
yeah, very grim and
Yeah.
depressing. No Twinkies, just a lot of zombies. Probably accurate.
And human interactions and survival methods. Okay. And then so after all this research and a study like this, how do you feel about your chances for surviving?
Oh, mine. um, Probably not the best, but that's okay. I'm just glad to be here to spread some zombie awareness as May winds down.
There you go. And I want to make sure I share this because the other thing I was surprised at with this study, the survival probability, the highest one is 7%. So that's kind of a depressing statistic for a lot of us to consider, based on physicality, resources available, population density, the defense index, which I think is sort of the armed,
Mhm.
military concept. 7% is the highest. And we see New York sitting down there with a 3%. So I think maybe the moral of the story is we all need to start practicing our zombie survival skills.
Yeah, and maybe the real push of the month is for everyone to just think about maybe stocking your emergency kit for a more likely emergency or being prepared for especially as like summer comes around with high heat, making sure you have water on hand in case and just kind of being prepared for
Absolutely.
more real life emergencies that we all encounter.
Yeah, and I think that's true. We all need to follow the recommendation for your emergency kit and your basic awareness of what you need to have, you know, whatever it is, a week's worth of water, your pet food, your medications, all of that. It's good for zombies and hurricanes. Yeah. Well, Kathy, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me today. For those who are interested in the full zombie survival ranking, you can find that on Canada Sports Betting, which is every state's landing and why Virginia scored so highly. So, Kathy, thanks so much for joining me in the spotlight today.
No, thanks for having me and have a good one.